Hey folks, the Comics Kid 2099 here. Today, I want to talk to you about the 2003 animated Batman film, Batman: Mystery of the Batwoman. This film stars Kevin Conroy, Kimberly Brooks, Kelly Ripa, and Eliza Gabrielli, with story by Michael Reeves and Alan Burnett, and directed by Kurt Guida. If you haven't seen this movie, I will be spoiling it, so keep that in mind while I briefly sum up the plot before I get into the nitty-gritty of my review. A new vigilante, a Batwoman, has come to Gotham and is targeting the joint weapons-dealing venture of Rupert Thorne, Penguin, and Carlton Duquesne. Batman tries to figure out who this new vigilante is to keep the wanton destruction and near deaths to a minimum. He suspects two different women, but eventually finds out they and their mutual friend are all three working together because they each have a beef with one of the allied gangsters. Batman and two of the Batwomen must work together to save the third Batwoman, who has been captured by Bane, who was hired by the allied gangsters to ensure their shipment would arrive safely. In the end, the three Batwomen all more or less get what they want, and Bruce Wayne even gets the girl in the end. Cue credits. When I first watched all of the animated Batman films set in the DC animated universe, I always preferred this film over Mask of the Phantasm and Sub-Zero. Watching this movie now, it has a few problems that I never noticed before in earlier viewings, but I still think that it's superior to the other two films. One thing I really like about this movie is, well, the mystery of the Batwoman. I made no secret that I did not like the way Mask of the Phantasm handled the mystery angle, because even when I was 9, I knew exactly who the Phantasm was, and any attempts to redirect the audience from the real identity of the villain seemed hackneyed and forced. But this movie doesn't feel that way even now. Yes, it tries to keep the audience guessing, and it does throw some red herrings in there, but they are handled in such a way that it works for the story. There's no rule that says the Batwoman cannot be multiple people, but that's how our brains are wired. We just assume it's going to be one of the new characters introduced in this film, and not all three of them working together. This film even pulls another sly one on us by naming one of the Batwomen Kathy Duquesne, which is quite similar to Kathy Kane, the original Batwoman from the comics. As Alan Burnett said in one of the featurettes, when the fans hear that name, they're going to assume she's the Batwoman. And she is, but there's more to it than that. And when we see Batwoman leaving Penguin's club while Kathy Duquesne is coming out of the restroom, we assume that she's innocent and our culprit is one of the other two women. It doesn't even enter our minds that she might have accomplices. Compare this to, say, Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness's Red Hulk storyline, where the identity of the Red Hulk is a mystery. Now, it's eventually revealed that it's Thunderbolt Ross, but the comic is so concerned with preventing the audience from finding out the truth that they have Ross actually speaking to the Red Hulk just to throw people off the scent. That's bad writing, and it comes from a bad headspace where the writer thinks that keeping the audience from figuring out the mystery is the most important part of the story. Yes, when writing a mystery, keeping the mystery, well, mysterious is important, but it's not the most important thing when writing a story. It's also important that the story makes sense and has engaging characters with motivations that make sense, and that these characters are sympathetic and likable. And this movie hits most of those marks pretty well. All three of the Batwomen have very understandable motivations for doing what they do. Sonia's parents lost their small business in a fire caused by Rupert Thorne's men. Rocky's fiancé was framed for a job done by the Penguin and his men. And Kathy hates her father because her mother died in an assassination attempt meant for him. I feel for each of them, and I'm impressed that the movie is able to accomplish that in only an hour and 15 minutes. Three brand new characters and making them each feel real and give them fleshed out backstories, that's quite a feat. My only problem is that the movie feels a little imbalanced in which character gets fleshed out. Bruce initially suspects Kathy is Batwoman, so the movie spends more time with her than it does with Rocky and Sonia, and it spends more time with Rocky, since she works for Bruce, than it does with Sonia. Sonia really gets the short end of the stick of the three, which is weird since Batman eventually pegs her as the heart of the group. Rocky has the tech know-how, Kathy funds the group with her money, but Sonia is the one who kickstarted this whole Batwoman idea in the first place. So you would think the movie would have spent more time with her so that we could get to know her a little bit more. This comes back to something that I've said in the past after Daredevil Season 1 came out on Netflix. After watching that season, I came to the realization that a feature film just does not offer enough time to explore every angle worth exploring in a superhero story like this. Heck, there are superhero movies that are an hour longer than this film that I don't think adequately explore everything that needs to be explored. I wish we could have seen this story stretched out into an 8-episode miniseries like Stranger Things. That would have given us more than enough time to get to know Sonia and Rocky and cry when we learn of their reasons for doing what they do. This would have given more space for the mystery to be researched by Batman instead of so many contrivances coming along the way to make it extraordinarily easy for Batman to piece everything together, i.e. Rocky is the biggest idiot in the world and uses her magic metal that she's developing for Wayne Enterprises as the Batwoman. Even if she didn't know that Bruce was Batman, surely it would have gotten out that her metal showed up at a crime scene eventually. Or, speaking of contrivances, how about how Kathy Duquesne still has her sketchbook from college and Batman just happens to find it, flip through it, and find a picture of Sonia in it that connects all of the dots for him. If it had been a viable option in 2003, I think making this story be a miniseries on some kind of streaming service like what we have today would have helped smooth out a lot of these problems. It also would have given this budding romance between Kathy and Bruce more room to breathe, which is a big problem in the movie that we got, because these two meet each other in a pretty coincidental manner, and then like a day later, Alfred is telling Tim that Bruce has developed feelings for Kathy. No, I don't think so. There's a lot of things about Mask of the Phantasm that I do not like, but at least the love story felt more authentic and organic in that movie than it does here. Now, to be fair, it's not like Bruce and Kathy get married or anything. They just drive off into the sunset to spend more time together. But my problem is that I don't feel like even that has been earned by this movie. If you count Kathy conning Bruce into helping her escape from her father's hired guns, they have exactly 2 dates in this movie. And I don't feel like that's enough time for them to decide they're going to be seeing more of each other at the end of this movie. Another problem I have with this movie has nothing to do with the lack of time it has to tell its story. 90% of the reason Batman even gets involved in this story is because the ladies are encroaching on his motif. Whichever one of them it was he met at the beginning of the movie almost got a truck driver killed, and Batman doesn't want strangers almost getting people killed and tainting the image of the Bat family by making people assume that she's connected to him and his. Later in the movie, after Batman is pretty close to figuring out who the Batwomen are, Rocky tells Sonya they should have come up with a brand new identity instead of usurping the Bat identity. And I'm thinking, yeah, you should have. Why did you choose to dress up like Batman at all? Other than it is more reason for Batman to get involved in the story, I can't think of a reason why they would do this, as it does bring the heat down on them much faster than it otherwise would have. I'm sure it had something to do with marketing for this movie. Some higher up probably told the people making this film that they could make X number of dollars more if the new vigilante was Bat-themed than if it was Azrael or some brand new vigilante. Fine, I just want an in-story reason why Sonya thought that this was a good idea, and we don't get anything like that. And I just don't like the idea that the main reason Batman is pursuing the Batwoman is because they're encroaching on his mantle. The opening scene shows Batwoman's recklessness almost causing a man to die. That should be the big reason why Bruce is going after this person. Yeah, he mentions her casual regard for human life in passing, but the rest of the movie doesn't even seem to be concerned with addressing that until the end of the film. Even though I really like the mystery aspect of this movie, I almost think it spent too much time on that part and kind of forgot about the thematic stuff that acts as a bookend but is completely absent in the middle 4/5 of the film. Again, if this was a miniseries longer than 75 minutes, maybe we could have had more development on why what Batman does is okay, but what the Batwoman does is not okay. And speaking of Batman, I feel like he doesn't quite have enough to do here considering this is his movie. This isn't as bad as Sub-Zero, where he's really got nothing to do, but the lack of proactivity from Batman here makes me wistful for Mask of the Phantasm. No, I don't like that movie, but at least it does feel like Batman's movie. Again, this isn't the worst offender in that regard, but maybe this is only so problematic here because we are getting introduced to 3 brand new supporting characters, and if you are going to give them all backstories and motivations and scenes where they are interacting with the rest of the cast, that screen time has to come from somewhere, so they choose to take it away from our main character. I would have preferred taking Tim Drake and Barbara Gordon out of the movie. Barbara only has one cameo scene that exists only to reference the relationship that was hinted at in Batman Beyond, and Tim doesn't really add anything either. He researches stuff on the computer for Bruce, but that goes nowhere, so it doesn't really need to be in the movie. Tim and Barbara together don't take up much screen time, but if you take them out and give that screen time to Bruce, I think he would have felt more important to this story. One thing I was disappointed in wasn't so much a problem with this movie, but the lack of follow-up on any of these characters. This movie introduces 3 new vigilante types into the DC animated universe, and we never see any of them again. Justice League Unlimited would have been an awesome place to see Batwoman again, even if it was just in passing like so many other members of the League. Yes, we had the whole Bat embargo thing that prevented Batman characters from showing up on Justice League while the Batman was going on. But the Batwomen from this movie were all original characters who would never show up in the Batman anyway, so I wouldn't see how that would be a problem. And yes, all 3 of our Batwomen get happy endings, so there is no need for them to be Batwomen anymore. Rocky presumably gets filthy rich off of her magic metal invention and marries her fiancé. Kathy probably breaks up with Bruce because he's afraid of commitment, and she forms a more solid relationship with her father. Once again, Sonya is the odd man out. Batman asks what she'll do with her life now that Gordon has fired her, and she says she'll move somewhere where capes aren't the prevailing fashion. So that seems to preclude her from picking up the Batwoman mantle again. But I don't buy it. Unlike Kathy and Rocky, who have someone in their lives that they are doing this for, Sonya seems alone at the end of the movie. We don't know if her parents died in the fire that Thorne's men started, or if they died later in life, or if they're still alive somewhere. But I really do feel like having Sonya decide to give up being Batwoman hurts the ending of this movie, and not just because I think it would have been awesome to have seen her again in Justice League Unlimited. Sonya seems to be the one who is the most reckless as Batwoman. She asks Batman how he can draw the line when he does what he does, and mentions that she couldn't even see the line when she was Batwoman. And we even see that she's about to shoot Batman, and she only stops because her phone rings. But she doesn't really go through any kind of character arc. She acts like she realizes that this was wrong, but we never see her actually go through a journey. She just magically transports to that point at the end of the movie. I think this film would have been much stronger thematically if Sonya went through the same kind of character arc that Bruce Wayne went through in Batman Begins, where she realizes that there's more to putting on a costume than getting revenge on someone who wronged you. Maybe Sonya could have saved Kathy's father from Bane instead of Kathy doing it, and then she could say something like, "Saving him, it felt right. I never realized that there was more to this than revenge." Heck, I would even be okay with not seeing her again in Justice League Unlimited if she had gotten a better ending in this movie. Overall, this movie is problematic, but it is still one of the more enjoyable animated Batman films for me. The problems that it does have aren't quite enough to make me hate it like Mask of the Phantasm or Sub-Zero, but those are just my thoughts and opinions. What do you guys think of the movie and of my review? If you like this video, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to see me dissect other superhero movies, leave me some feedback. I don't have any concrete plans at the moment, but that could change if you guys have any suggestions of things for me to talk about. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.